The message came on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. Admiral Park Suho was drinking his third cup of coffee on the bridge of the Hambid, humanity's largest warship, when the communication officer's face turned pale. "Sir," the young woman said, her voice shaking, "we have a transmission. It's from the Galactic Council." Suho set down his cup slowly. In 18 years of space travel, humanity had learned one thing very clearly. The Galactic Council did not send friendly messages. They ruled over 1,000 species across 1,000,000 worlds. They had been traveling between stars when humans were still learning to make fire, and they did not consider humanity worth their attention, until now. The message was simple and cold. Humanity was ordered to send a representative to Throne Station, the ancient seat of galactic power, within 15 days. No reason was given. No explanation was offered. Just a command, like a master calling a dog. Back on Earth, the United Government held emergency meetings for 3 days straight. Who should they send? What did the Council want? Some officials hoped it was good news. Perhaps the Council wanted to welcome humanity into the galactic community. Perhaps they had finally noticed the small blue planet and its stubborn people. Ambassador Kim Yuna did not believe in such hopes. She was 53 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too many broken promises. When the government asked her to represent Earth, she accepted without smiling. "They don't call small species to Throne Station for celebrations," she told her aide, Lieutenant Choi Dohan, as they boarded the diplomatic vessel. "They call them for something else entirely." Dohan was young, barely 30, with an easy smile that made people trust him. But behind that smile was a mind that never stopped calculating. He had studied every record of Council interactions with new species. The pattern was not encouraging. 17 species have been summoned in the last 100 years, he said quietly as their ship entered faster than light travel. All of them accepted terms. None of them are independent anymore. Yuna nodded. She had read the same reports. Species that were once proud and free now served as workers in Council mines, soldiers in Council armies, servants in Council halls. Their cultures had been erased. Their histories had been forgotten. They existed only to serve. The journey to Throne Station took 12 days. When they finally arrived, Yuna understood why the Council had chosen this place for their capital. The station was not a building. It was a small moon, hollowed out and filled with chambers and corridors that could hold billions of beings. Ships the size of cities floated around it like insects around a lamp. Some of those ships belonged to species that had been traveling the stars for 1,000,000 years. Humanity's little diplomatic vessel looked like a toy in comparison. They were met at the docking bay by creatures that Yuna had only seen in reports. There were the Volani, tall beings made of living crystal that sang when they moved. There were the Kroth, massive four-armed warriors with skin like stone. There were the Mindweavers, who existed as clouds of connected thoughts rather than physical bodies. All of them looked at the two humans with expressions that ranged from curiosity to contempt. A Volani official led them through corridors that seemed to go on forever. The walls were covered with carvings that told the history of the galaxy wars fought, species risen and fallen, empires built and destroyed. Humanity was not mentioned anywhere. They were too small, too new, too unimportant. Finally, they reached the grand chamber. It was a vast circular room with seats rising up on all sides like a stadium. 12 massive thrones dominated one end, each one built for a different type of being. These were the seats of the elder species, the 12 civilizations that had founded the Council and ruled it ever since. Thousands of observers filled the other seats. Representatives from hundreds of species had come to watch. Yuna realized that whatever was about to happen, the Council wanted an audience. The being that spoke first was called the Eternal Chorus. It was the oldest of the Villani, a crystalline giant that glowed with inner light. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Species 7412, it said. Designation, humanity. Origin, Sol system, third planet. You have been summoned to receive the Council's terms. Una stepped forward. Her heart was beating fast, but her face showed nothing. We are honored to be here, she said. We hope to discuss how humanity can contribute to the galactic community. The chorus made a sound that might have been laughter. Contribute? You misunderstand, small one. You are not here to discuss. You are here to listen. It raised one crystalline arm, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed Earth's beautiful blue Earth surrounded by data and numbers. The Council has decided that humanity will provide 60% of your homeworld's mineral resources to the galactic treasury. You will also provide 40% of your population for labor assignment across Council territories. Your military forces will be disbanded and reformed under Council command. You have 30 standard rotations to comply. The chamber was silent. Una felt Dawn tense beside her, but she kept her eyes on the chorus. And if we decline? She asked Dawn. The chorus flickered with what seemed like amusement. Decline? No species has declined in 4,000 years. Those who considered refusal were shown the wisdom of acceptance. It paused. Those who still refused were pacified. Their worlds still exist. Their people do not. Una thought of Earth. She thought of the cities full of people who had no idea what was being demanded of them. She thought of children playing in parks, of families eating dinner together, of old men fishing in quiet rivers. All of it could be destroyed with a single command from this glowing monster. We will deliver your terms to our government, she said, her voice steady. We will return with our answer. The chorus seemed surprised. Perhaps it had expected begging. Perhaps it had expected tears. You have 30 rotations, it repeated. Use them wisely, small ones. The galaxy has no patience for foolishness. As Una and Dohon walked back to their ship, the young lieutenant finally spoke. What are we going to do? Una did not answer immediately. She looked out at the endless stars, at the massive ships of species that could crush humanity without effort. We're going to find a way, she said finally. Or we're going to make them regret ever learning our name. The diplomatic vessel landed in Seoul on a cold morning. Gray clouds covered the sky, and rain fell softly on the landing pad. Ambassador Kim Yuna thought the weather matched her mood perfectly. Within hours, she was standing in the underground command center, facing the most powerful people on Earth. Presidents, prime ministers, generals. Scientists, they had all gathered to hear the Council's demands. The room was silent as Yuna repeated every word the Eternal Chorus had spoken. When she finished, no one moved. The weight of the ultimatum pressed down on everyone like a physical force. President Yu Mai-rei was the first to speak. She was a small woman with a gentle face, elected 3 years ago because people believed she could bring peace. Now she faced a choice that no leader should ever have to make. 60% of our resources, she said slowly. 40% of our people. They want to take everything. Defense Minister Han Tae-sung leaned forward. He was a practical man, known for finding solutions when others saw only problems. We could negotiate. Accept some terms, reject others. Buy ourselves time to grow stronger. There is no negotiation, Yuna replied. The chorus made that clear. We accept all terms or we face destruction. Then, we accept, Tae-sung said. We survive. We wait. Eventually, we find a way to break free. A harsh laugh came from the holographic display on the wall. Admiral Park Suho's weathered face looked out at them from the bridge of the Hanbit. still orbiting far above Earth. "You didn't read the reports, did you?" the old admiral said. "The species that submitted, they didn't get a chance to break free. The council scattered them across the galaxy. Families separated. Languages forbidden. Histories erased. Within 3 generations, they forgot who they were. They became nothing but workers and soldiers for their masters." He paused, his eyes hard. "Submission isn't survival. It's a slow death." The room fell silent again. Everyone knew Suho was right, but knowing the truth and accepting it were different things. It was Fleet Commander Beak Jisoo who asked the question everyone was thinking. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and the steady gaze of someone who had spent her life preparing for war. "What are our military options?" she asked. "If we fight, what happens?" The holographic display changed to show fleet positions and numbers. Humanity had 47 capital ships, 300 smaller vessels, and about 2 million trained soldiers across all branches. The Council commanded fleets of millions, armies of billions, and weapons that could crack planets like eggs. "If we fight conventionally," Jisoo said, "we lose. It's not even close. They could destroy our entire fleet without losing a single major ship. So we can't submit and we can't fight," President Yoon said. "What options do we have left?" A small voice spoke from the corner of the room. "There might be one." Everyone turned to look at Dr. Shin Yoonji. She was easy to overlook, a thin woman in her 40s, with messy hair and ink stains on her fingers. She ran the Advanced Research Division, a department that most politicians considered a waste of money. They gave her just enough funding to keep her quiet and expected nothing in return. "Doctor?" President Yoon said. "You have something?" Yoonji walked to the center of the room, her movements nervous. She was not used to speaking in front of powerful people. But what she had to say was more important than her discomfort. "For 15 years, my team has been working on something we call Project Sunrise," she began. "Everyone told us it was impossible. Everyone said we were wasting our time. But 6 months ago, we made it work." She activated her own holographic display. It showed complex equations and diagrams that most people in the room could not understand. "The Council's power comes from faster-than-light travel," Inji explained. "Without it, their empire falls apart. Ships can't move between systems. Fleets can't respond to threats. Communication breaks down. They become a collection of isolated worlds instead of a unified power." She took a deep breath. Project Sunrise is a device that destroys the dimensional fabric that makes FTL travel possible. One activation and an entire sector of space becomes locked. No ship can ever travel faster than light in that region again. Forever. The silence that followed was different from before. This was the silence of people who suddenly saw a door where there had only been a wall. "You're saying we could trap them," Admiral Suho said slowly. "Cut off their station from the rest of the galaxy." "Yes," Yoonji confirmed. "If we activate Sunrise at Throne Station, every ship there becomes stranded. The Council loses its capital, its leadership, its symbol of power. And the rest of their empire watches it happen and wonders if they're next." Minister Taesung frowned. "But wouldn't we be trapped too? Our ships would be stuck as well." Yoonji nodded, her face grim. "The device must be activated from the center of the target zone. The ship that carries it cannot leave. It will be stranded forever, along with everyone else." "A suicide mission," Commander Jisoo said quietly. "A deterrent," Yoonji corrected. "We don't have to actually use it. We just have to make them believe we will. The Council has never faced a species willing to destroy itself rather than submit. They don't know how to handle that kind of threat." President Yoon stood and walked to the window. Outside, the rain continued to fall on Seoul, on the millions of people going about their lives, unaware that their fate was being decided in this room. "How long until the device is ready?" she asked without turning around. "It's functional now," Yoonji said. "But we need to modify a ship to carry it, train a crew to operate it, and get it to Throne Station without the Council knowing what we're bringing. 28 days is barely enough time." The president was quiet for a long moment. When she finally turned around, her gentle face had become something harder. "Do it," she said. "Prepare the device. Prepare the ship. And prepare our answer." She looked at each person in the room, one by one. "We did not travel to the stars to become slaves. If the Council wants to take our future, they will learn that humanity would rather have no future at all than live on our knees." Admiral Suho's holographic image nodded slowly. "I volunteer the Hambit for the mission, and myself as its commander." Park Suho. President Yoon began. "I'm 83 years old," the Admiral interrupted. "I've lived a good life. Let me end it doing something that matters." No one argued. There was nothing to argue about. They all knew what was at stake. As the meeting ended and people began to leave, Dr. Shin Yoonji remained behind. Lieutenant Choi Do-hun approached her, his easy smile replaced by something more serious. "Will it work?" he asked quietly. "Honestly?" Yoonji looked at him with tired eyes. "I don't know," she admitted. "I really don't know. But it's the only chance we have." Dawn nodded. "Then I guess we'd better make sure we don't waste it." Outside, the rain finally stopped. A single ray of sunlight broke through the clouds, touching the wet streets of Seoul like a promise. Or perhaps like a warning. 28 days remained. The next 28 days became the most intense period in human history. Every shipyard on Earth and Mars worked around the clock. Workers slept in shifts of 4 hours, ate their meals standing up, and pushed their bodies beyond exhaustion. No one complained. Everyone understood what was at stake. The Hambit was brought to the orbital construction platform above Earth. Engineers swarmed over its hull like ants, removing unnecessary systems and installing the massive device that Dr. Shin Yoonji's team had created. The ship's elegant lines became ugly with new additions, power conduits, cooling systems, and the strange dark sphere at its center that hummed with energy that made people uncomfortable to be near. Admiral Park Suho watched the work from an observation deck. He had commanded the Hambit for 15 years. He knew every corridor, every room, every sound it made when traveling through space. Soon, it would become his tomb. He was not afraid. Fear was for people who had something to lose. At 83, with no family and no regrets, Suho had only one thing left: the chance to matter. "You should be resting," a voice said behind him. He turned to find Commander Baek Jisoo approaching. She carried 2 cups of coffee, real coffee, not the synthetic stuff they usually drank in space. "Where did you get this?" Suho asked, accepting a cup. "I have connections," Jisoo replied with a small smile. "Figured you could use something good before everything." They stood together in silence, watching the workers below. Sparks flew from welding tools. Cranes lifted massive components into place. Hundreds of people working toward a single goal. "The fleet is ready," Jisoo said eventually. 47 ships, all armed and crewed. "We've run drills every day for 2 weeks. They're as prepared as they'll ever be." "Prepared to die," Suho said quietly. "Prepared to fight," Jisoo corrected. "There's a difference. The Council expects us to roll over. They've never faced someone who fought back. That gives us an advantage, does it?" Suho asked. "They have thousands of ships. We have less than 50. Jisoo turned to look at him directly. "You know what I've learned in 30 years of military service. Numbers don't win wars. Will does. And right now, Humanity has more will than any species in the galaxy. We're scared, yes, but we're also angry. And there's nothing more dangerous than frightened people who have decided to stop running. Meanwhile, on Earth, Lieutenant Choi Don was doing very different work. He had been assigned to intelligence gathering information about the Council, their fleets, their weaknesses. What he found made him sick to his stomach. The records were buried deep in classified databases, hidden from public view. But Dohan had skills that most people didn't know about. He could find things that others wanted to stay hidden. He discovered that humanity was not the first species to receive this ultimatum. They were not even the 100th. Over the past 4,000 years, the Council had consumed species after species, always using the same method. First came the demands. Then came the threats. Then, if the species submitted, came the slow destruction of everything they were. But the truly horrifying discovery was what happened to species that tried to resist. The Karathi had been a warrior people, proud and fierce. They had refused the Council's terms and prepared to fight. The Council's response was swift and brutal. They didn't just defeat the Karathi, they erased them. Every planet bombed until nothing remained. Every ship destroyed. Every colony burned. The Karathi had numbered in the billions. Now, not a single one remained. The Mandari had tried diplomacy, seeking allies among other species. The Council learned of their plans and acted before any alliance could form. The Mandari were separated, men sent to one side of the galaxy, women to another, children raised by species that taught them to hate their own heritage. Within 2 generations, the Mandari language was dead. Their culture existed only in Council museums. Displayed as a curiosity, Dahan compiled everything he found and brought it to Ambassador Kim Yuna. She read through the reports in silence, her face growing paler with each page. "They're monsters," Dahan said. "They talk about peace and order, but all they really want is control. Complete, absolute control." Yuna set down the reports. "This is why we can't submit. Even if we wanted to, even if we were willing to give them everything they asked for, it wouldn't save us. We would just die slowly instead of quickly. What do we do with this information?" Dohan asked. Yuna thought for a moment. "We use it when we face them. We make sure the entire galaxy knows what the Council really is. We turn their audience against them." On day 23, something remarkable happened. Dr. Shin Yoonji's team conducted a final test of Project Sunrise in an uninhabited system 40 light-years from Earth. The device was activated from a small drone, and everyone watched through long-range sensors. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then space itself seemed to shiver. The dimensional fabric that allowed faster-than-light travel simply collapsed. It was like watching a bubble pop. Except the bubble was a region of space 10 billion kilometers wide. "It works," Yoonji whispered, tears running down her cheeks. "It actually works." The drone that had activated the device was now stranded, unable to ever leave that system. But it had proven that the weapon was real. The Council's greatest strength, their ability to move fleets across the galaxy in days, could be taken away forever. 5 days remained. The Hambit was ready, its terrible cargo installed and armed. And Meryl Suho had chosen his crew carefully, 200 volunteers who understood they might never come home. Every single one had signed their wills before boarding. On the final night before departure, Suho walked through the ship alone. He touched the walls, remembering old battles and old friends. This vessel had carried him through the best years of his life. Now it would carry him to the end. He stopped at a window and looked out at Earth. The blue planet hung in space like a jewel, covered in swirling white clouds. Somewhere down there, billions of people were going about their lives, working, playing, loving, fighting. Most of them didn't know what was coming. Most of them would never know how close they came to losing everything. "We'll protect them," Suho said to no one. "Whatever it takes." The next morning, the fleet launched. 47 ships plus the Hambit, arranged in perfect formation. As they entered faster than light travel, heading toward Throne Station and the confrontation that would decide humanity's fate, a message was broadcast to every human settlement in the solar system. President Yoon Murray's voice echoed through billions of speakers. "People of Earth, people of Mars, people of all human colonies, our representatives are going to answer the Galactic Council's demands. We do not know if they will return. We do not know what will happen. But we want you to know that whatever comes next, we face it together. We face it as humans. And we will not surrender who we are." Across the human worlds, people stopped what they were doing and listened. Some cried. Some prayed. Some simply held their loved ones close. And in the cold darkness between stars, 48 ships carried humanity's answer toward the ancient powers that thought they could make slaves of anyone they chose. They were about to learn otherwise. Throne Station grew larger in the viewports as humanity's fleet approached. The massive structure was surrounded by thousands of ships, warships, cargo vessels, diplomatic transports belonging to species from across the galaxy. Word had spread that the humans were coming to deliver their answer, and everyone wanted to watch. Ambassador Kim Yuna stood on the bridge of the Hambit, watching the station grow closer. Beside her, Lieutenant Choi Do-hun checked his datapad for the 100th time, making sure all the information they had gathered was ready to transmit. "They're hailing us," the communications officer reported. "Put it through." Admiral Park Suho commanded from his captain's chair. The Eternal Chorus's voice filled the bridge, cold and ancient. "Species 7412, you were ordered to send a representative with your acceptance of our terms. Instead, you bring warships. Explain." Yuna stepped forward to the communication console. "We bring our fleet because we want you to see exactly what we're risking. We bring warships because our answer requires them." There was a pause. "You dare threaten the Council? With that pitiful collection of vessels? We could destroy you with a fraction of our power." "Then destroy us," Yuna said calmly. "But hear our answer first. You wanted an audience for this moment. Let them hear what we have to say." The silence stretched for long seconds. Then the chorus spoke again. "Very well. Dock at Port 7. Your ambassador will address the Grand Chamber. Your fleet will remain at a distance of 100,000 kilometers. Any hostile action will result in immediate annihilation." "Understood," Suho replied. "Fleet, hold position. Ambassador, you're up." Yuna nodded. She had known this moment would come. She had prepared for it every day since returning from her first visit to Throne Station. Now it was time to see if preparation was enough. She took a shuttle to the station with Do-hun at her side. As they passed through the docking procedures, she noticed something different from her last visit. Before, the alien officials had looked at them with contempt or amusement. Now, there was something else in their eyes. Curiosity, and perhaps a little fear. The Grand Chamber was even more crowded than before. Representatives from thousands of species filled every seat, and more watched through holographic connections from across the galaxy. This was the largest audience the Council had ever assembled. The Eternal Chorus sat on its throne, glowing with impatient energy. "Speak, human. Deliver your submission." Yuna walked to the center of the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. She looked up at the 12 thrones of the elder species, then out at the countless watching eyes. "You demanded our resources," she began, her voice clear and strong. "You demanded our people. You demanded our freedom. And you gave us 30 days to accept or face destruction." She paused. "We do not accept." A murmur ran through the chamber. The chorus flickered angrily. Then you choose death. We will wipe your species from existence, as we have done to so many before you. Yes, Una said. Like you did to the Karathi. Like you did to the Mandari. Like you have done to 17 species in the last century alone. She activated her holographic display. Images appeared in the center of the chamber records that Dohan had uncovered, evidence of the Council's true nature. These are the Council's secrets, Una continued. The species they destroyed. The cultures they erased. The billions of people they scattered and enslaved. They tell you they offer peace and order. But the truth is, they offer only submission or extinction. The murmur became a roar. Species that had suspected the truth now saw it displayed before them. The chorus's light flickered faster, its anger building. Silence. It commanded. This is lies and propaganda. Guards, remove this creature. Wait, Una said, raising her hand. I have not finished delivering humanity's answer. She turned to face the chorus directly. You asked if we would submit. We will not. You threatened to destroy us. Perhaps you can. But before you try, look out the windows. Look at the ship in the center of our fleet. The holographic display changed to show the Hambit, floating in space with its strange modifications visible. That ship carries a device we call Project Sunrise, Una explained. When activated, it collapses the dimensional fabric that makes faster-than-light travel possible. Not just for a moment, forever. The effect is permanent and irreversible. She let that sink in before continuing. The Hambit is positioned at the exact center of this system. If we activate Sunrise, everything within 50 light-years becomes a trap. Every ship at Throne Station, every council warship, every diplomatic vessel, every transport carrying goods and passengers will be stranded. No rescue will ever come. No fleet can ever arrive. This station and everyone on it will be cut off from the galaxy until they die of old age. The chamber erupted in chaos. Species screamed at each other. Some tried to flee. Others demanded answers from the council. The 12 elder species looked at each other with expressions that ranged from disbelief to terror. You're bluffing, the chorus said. But its voice had lost its confidence. Admiral Suho's face appeared on the display. He sat calmly in his captain's chair, his finger resting near a large red button. I am 83 years old, he said. I have no family. I have no fear of death. My crew are volunteers who have accepted they may never go home. We are prepared to activate this device. The question is, are you prepared to call our bluff? The chorus was silent. For 4,000 years, no species had ever refused its demands. For 4,000 years, the council had ruled through fear and the certainty that no one would dare oppose them. Now, for the first time, they faced something they did not understand. People who would rather destroy everything than live as slaves. You would kill yourselves, the chorus said finally. You would strand your own ship along with ours. Yes, Suho confirmed. We would. Why? What could possibly be worth such a sacrifice? Una answered. Freedom. The right to live as we choose, not as you dictate. The right to raise our children with our own values, speak our own languages, dream our own dreams. You don't understand this because you never had to fight for it. You've always been the ones taking freedom from others. She looked out at the assembled species. But humanity remembers what it's like to fight for freedom. Our history is full of tyrants and empires that thought they could crush the human spirit. Every single one of them failed. You will fail too. The chorus was silent for a long time. Finally, it spoke, and its voice was different, calculating rather than commanding. What do you want? We want to be left alone, Una said simply. Full sovereignty. No tribute. No labor quotas. No military integration. We stay out of your affairs, and you stay out of ours. And we never use Project Sunrise unless you force us to. And if we refuse? Yuna shrugged. Then we activate the device. You lose Throne Station, your leadership, your symbol of power. Your empire watches it happen and wonders if they're next. Maybe some of them decide it's time to fight back too. After all, if the tiny humans can do it, why can't they? She gestured at the crowded chamber. Look around you. How many of these species are truly loyal to you? How many are just afraid? What happens when that fear turns to hope? The 12 elder species whispered among themselves. The chorus flickered and pulsed, processing thoughts that were older than human civilization. Outside, humanity's fleet waited. On the Hambit, Admiral Suho's finger remained near the button. 3 hours passed. 3 hours of waiting, of tension, of billions of beings across the galaxy watching and wondering. Finally, the chorus spoke. The Council will consider your proposal. You will remain here while we deliberate. Yuna nodded. We'll wait. But not forever. And not patiently. She walked back to her shuttle with Dohon beside her. As they left the chamber, she heard something she had never expected to hear on Throne Station. Applause. Quiet at first, then growing louder. Species that had spent centuries under the Council's heel were clapping for the tiny humans who had dared to say no. It wasn't victory. Not yet. But it was something almost as important. It was hope. For 3 days, nothing happened. Humanity's fleet held position around Throne Station while the Council deliberated. Admiral Park Suho stayed at his post on the Hambit, his crew rotating in shifts but never relaxing. The device at the heart of the ship hummed constantly, ready to activate at a moment's notice. Ambassador Kim Yuna waited on the station itself, confined to guest quarters that were comfortable but clearly guarded. Lieutenant Choi Dohan stayed with her, monitoring communications and watching for any sign of what the Council was planning. They're going to attack, Dohan said on the second night. They have to. If they back down now, every species in the galaxy will see that they can be defied. Yuna shook her head. If they attack, they lose Throne Station. They lose their leadership. They lose everything they've built over 4,000 years. The chorus is old, but it's not stupid. It's calculating the cost. And what does that calculation say? That the cost of attacking is too high. Yuna looked out the window at the stars. For the first time in their existence, they've encountered something they can't buy, can't threaten, can't control. They don't know what to do with us. On the third day, the Eternal Chorus requested a private meeting. Yuna went alone. Entering a small chamber far from the Grand Hall, the chorus waited there, its crystalline form dimmer than before, as if the stress of the past days had drained some of its ancient energy. You have created a problem, the chorus said without greeting. You created the problem, Yuna replied. We just refuse to accept it. The chorus made a sound like grinding glass. Do you know how long I have existed? 17 million years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species evolve from animals to thinkers to dust. In all that time, I have learned one truth. The universe favors order. Chaos destroys. Control preserves. Control for whom? Yuna asked. Your order has preserved the Council. It has destroyed everyone else. It has preserved stability, peace, progress. Progress for you, slavery for everyone else. Yuna stepped closer to the ancient being. You're not preserving order. You're preserving your power. And you've done it for so long that you've forgotten there's a difference. The chorus was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was different, tired, perhaps, or simply old. What you're asking for will change everything. If we allow one species to refuse us, others will follow. The order we've maintained for millennia will collapse. Maybe it should, Yuna said. Maybe it's time for a new order. One built on choice instead of force. And you believe you can build such a thing? A species that discovered space travel 18 years ago. We can try. And if we fail, at least we'll fail as free people. The chorus flickered, its light shifting through colors that Yuna couldn't name. Finally, it reached a decision. The Council will accept your terms. Humanity will retain full sovereignty. You will not share the sunrise technology with other species. You will maintain it as a deterrent only. In exchange, the Council will not interfere with your development or expansion. Yuna felt her heart race, but she kept her face calm. And what about the other species? The ones you've already consumed? That is not your concern. It is if we're going to have any kind of future together. Yuna took a breath. We want a seat on a new governing body. Not just the 12 elder species, all species. Equal voice, equal vote. And we want the pacified species given the choice to reclaim their independence. You ask too much. I ask for justice. Your order has been unjust for 4,000 years. Change starts somewhere. The negotiation continued for hours. The chorus argued, threatened, bargained, and pleaded. Yuna held firm on the essentials while giving ground on details. By the time they finished, both were exhausted, but they had the framework of something new. It wasn't perfect. The Council would not release all the pacified species at once. The new Galactic Assembly would take years to establish. Many details remained to be worked out. But for the first time in 4,000 years, change was possible. When Yuna walked out of that meeting, she carried a document, the first treaty ever signed between the Council and a species that had refused to submit. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. On Throne Station, species that had watched in fear now celebrated openly. On distant worlds, beings who had given up hope began to dream again. The tiny humans, the newcomers, the nobodies, they had done the impossible. Admiral Park Suho brought the Hambit home. The device was deactivated, though it remained installed, ready to be used if the Council ever broke their word. He was greeted as a hero when he landed on Earth. Crowds filling the streets of every city to welcome the man who had been willing to sacrifice everything. He lived another 12 years after that, long enough to see humanity take its first seat on the new Galactic Assembly. He was there when the Assembly passed its first resolution, giving the scattered peoples of the Mendari the right to reunite and rebuild their culture. He cried that day, the first time anyone had seen the old admiral show such emotion. Commander Beek Jisoo became the first fleet marshal of the United Earth Defense Force. Under her leadership, humanity's fleet grew from 47 ships to over 1,000. They never had to use them in combat. The Council kept their word, and other species were too impressed by humanity's courage to cause trouble. Dr. Shin Yunji received every scientific award Earth could offer. She accepted them politely, then returned to her laboratory to work on new projects. When asked what she was researching, she would only smile and say, insurance. Just in case. Lieutenant Choi Dohan eventually became an ambassador himself. He was known for his unusual style, always friendly, always reasonable, but always carrying the quiet reminder that humanity had once been willing to burn everything rather than kneel. He negotiated treaties with dozens of species, always pushing for fairness, always remembering what it felt like to be small and threatened. President Yu Mai-rei served 2 more terms before retiring. History would remember her as the leader who chose defiance over submission, who bet humanity's future on courage instead of fear. She never forgot the weight of that decision, the sleepless nights, the terrible responsibility, the knowledge that one wrong choice could have ended everything. And Kim Yuna? When her work was done, she retired to a small house on Jeju Island. She grew tangerines in her garden and refused all requests for interviews or appearances. When visitors asked about her legacy, she would only say, "I just delivered a message." The message was humanity itself. The galaxy changed in the years that followed. The old order crumbled slowly, replaced by something more chaotic but more free. Species that had been servants for millennia learned to govern themselves again. Some succeeded, some failed. But all of them had the chance to try. And on every world where beings looked up at the stars and wondered about their future, they told stories about the humans. The small species. The young species. The species that had been given a choice between submission and destruction, and had chosen neither. They had chosen to fight. And in fighting, they had shown the galaxy something it had forgotten, that even the smallest voice can shake the heavens. If it refuses to be silent. In the end, the eternal chorus had been right about one thing. The universe does favor order. But the chorus had been wrong about what kind of order. Not the order of masters and slaves. Not the order of fear and control. The order of free beings, standing together, building something better. That was humanity's answer. That was humanity's gift to the stars. And the galaxy would never be the same. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Years later, a young alien student asked her teacher about the events at Throne Station. Why did the humans refuse to submit? She asked. They were so small. They had no chance of winning. Why did they risk everything? The teacher, an old being who had watched those events unfold, thought for a moment before answering. Because they believed something the council never understood, he said. They believed that what they were was worth more than whether they survived. They would rather die as humans than live as something else. And that belief, that stubborn, irrational, beautiful belief, changed everything. The student considered this. Would you have done the same? If you had been in their position? The teacher smiled. Before the humans, I would have said no. I would have submitted, like everyone else. But after seeing what they did, I think maybe I would have found the courage too. He looked up at the stars through the classroom window. That's what they really gave us, you know? Not just freedom from the council. They gave us the example. They showed us what courage looks like. And once you've seen that, once you know it's possible, you can never go back to being afraid. The student nodded slowly, understanding. Outside, the stars continued to shine, the same stars that humans had looked up at from their small blue planet, dreaming of the day they would walk among them. They had dreamed bigger than anyone expected, and the galaxy was better for it.